Hey folks, how's it going? So I've mentioned in multiple videos about how it's not a good idea to keep all of your money in the bank. And I understand that most payment systems, most bills are paid electronically now. However, you need to get into the habit of keeping at least some cash at home, because you can't always guarantee that you're going to be able to have access to your cash. I have two articles here that reinforce that fact. The first is, this one comes from investing.com, but it's on multiple other websites. Iowa's Citizens Bank has been shuttered, so we've had another bank failure. Assets and deposits assumed by Iowa Trust and Savings Bank. Citizens Bank, based in Sac City, Iowa, has been shuttered due to financial instability, marking the fifth U.S. bank failure in 2023. The Iowa Division of Banking sanctioned the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation's, the FDIC, takeover on Friday, November 3rd, with the FDIC subsequently appointed as a receiver. A purchase and assumption agreement was made with Iowa Trust and Savings Bank to assume all deposits and assets from Citizens Bank. The assets are valued at $66 million, while deposits amount to $59 million. The branches of Citizens Bank will reopen under the new bank during normal business hours on Monday. Customers can access funds via checks or ATM debit cards over the weekend, and loan payments should continue as usual. Despite the system changes, deposit insurance for Citizens customers remains unaffected. The transition incurs a $14.8 million cost to the deposit insurance funds, a fund established by Congress in 1933 for deposit protection. The acquisition marks the first since Polk County's bank failure, the last in Iowa in 2011. It's considered the least costly resolution. This bank closure follows a trend that started with First Citizens Bank on March 10th, making it the fifth bank failure in 2023 within the U.S. Okay, so as I said before, the four in the last video I did on these bank failures, the four that we saw was not going to be the last. There would be more. And now this one at $66 million in assets, $59 million in deposits. That's a small bank. That's a very small bank. I think they only have 2 or 3 branches. I could be wrong, but I think that's all they have. So it's a very small regional bank. And if you'll remember in my last video where I was talking about bank failures and the risks to banks, the risk to the economy, I had mentioned how all banks were in jeopardy, but the risk was specifically high for the smaller regional banks. Okay, so that's one article. This next one again comes from CNBC.com, but again, it's all over the news. Banks had a problem with certain deposits on Friday. The ACH system had some issues transferring certain deposits on Friday. I believe there was an estimated 900,000 deposits that were affected. 900,000 deposits that were supposed to happen but didn't. Okay, again, from CNBC.com, customers grapple with deposit delays at big banks. Customers at several big banks on Friday wrestled with direct deposit delays stemming from an industry-wide processing issue. There was a surge of outages reported by banking customers Friday morning, including Bank of America, Chase, Truist, U.S. Bank, and Wells Fargo, according to Down Detector. But the site does not specify the nature of the complaint. It wouldn't surprise me if this was a cyber attack, potentially from actors in response to what's going on in Israel. That's a possibility. It could simply be some of that ransomware attacks. But more than likely, since it affected so many banks, I would say it was probably a cyber attack. That's just my guess. It could be a system error all on its own. The Fed reported a processing issue with the Electronic Payments Network, a private sector operator for the Automated Clearinghouse, or ACH, a network that processes transactions. There was a processing error with the ACH file last night. It was a manual error associated with the file, said Gregory McSweeney, Vice President and Head of Communications at the Clearinghouse, the banking association and payments company that owns the EPN processing system. Banks are now working to correct the errors in those payments, he said. We're aware of an industry-wide technical issue impacting some deposits for November 3rd. Lee Henderson, Vice President of Public Affairs and Communications at U.S. Bank, told CNBC in a statement. Customer accounts remain secure, and balances will be updated when deposits are received. We do not have an estimate on timing at this point, Henderson added. Customers do not need to take any action. The originators of these deposits are working to resend the payment files, and we will post them as soon as we can, said a Chase spokesperson in a written statement. Bank of America, Truist, and Wells Fargo did not provide commentary by publication time. Customers affected by the deposit delays can call their lenders and explain their late payments were due to an industry-wide issue, said Matt Schultz, Chief Credit Analyst at LendingTree. When money that we expect to be there on a Friday morning isn't there, and your auto pay is set up to pay a credit card or buy now, pay later loan, it can cause some real issues. No kidding, really? And that is my whole point. We've seen with bank failures that sometimes there's a delay in being able to access your money. So being that Citizens Bank was such a small bank, that's probably not an issue with this one. However, we have seen it in the past. Now, if this had been a much, much larger bank, or even one of the larger banks, like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Chase, Truist, what have you, it would be a much different story, because those banks have deposits of such a high amount that it would be almost impossible for the FDIC to insure all of them at one time. Now, that's even for the deposits at one of those banks. But what happens if there's a crash or a bank run that impacts all of those large banks? Well, if the FDIC can barely afford to cover deposits at one bank, well, if you have 5 major banks go down, where we're talking about trillions in deposits and assets, the FDIC simply can't cover those. So what will happen is they will come in, they will shut the banks down, and they will tell you, well, regardless of what your bank account balance is, you could have $500,000 in your bank account. If that type of failure occurs, they can come in and say, well, you can only get $200 out at this time. You can only get $50 out. You can only get $40 out. That's all we can allow you to, because that's all they can cover, depending on the size of the bank, the number of depositors, and how many people are trying to draw out money. They have to limit how much money you get out so that they can still cover everybody. The bigger the bank, the more deposits on record, and the more account holders there are, that number that you're allowed to get out will quickly drop. So we've also seen that in the past, particularly with the Freedom Truckers in Canada, how their bank accounts were locked down completely simply because they were participating in a legal, peaceful protest. Although Canada was trying to crack down on that right, there was nothing illegal about what they were doing. You might disagree with it, you might agree with it, that's not the point. The point is, Canada was trying to crack down on something that was perfectly legal and was not violent in any way. They were just exercising their right to protest, and their money was being locked down, preventing them from buying food and paying bills. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that censorship could become such a big issue, and I think it will be at some point in the future, that if you speak out against the government, or if you speak out against certain actions or certain behaviors or certain social issues, they'll try to lock down bank accounts, particularly if we do go to a digital dollar, a digital currency. That will make it so much easier for them to do that. That's my reasoning for do not keep all of your money in the bank. Keep enough in there to keep your accounts open and to pay what bills you need to, but get in the habit of holding at least some cash. It doesn't have to be all, it doesn't even have to be the majority of your cash, but get in the habit of holding at least some cash at home. You can put this in a safe. You can put it in a secure location offside of your home, however you want to do it. I will say that if they go to the extent of locking down accounts, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they lock down safe deposit box at banks, because they know people store valuable assets, valuable cash and assets in those boxes. So understand that these are the things that can happen now. And the more we transfer to a digital system, a digital payment system, digital currencies, and move away from cash, it's going to be more important than ever to hold cash until the time comes when they actually switch us over to a digital currency, and then this will cease to be an option. And I understand that as well. So what you need to be doing is you need to be working on building systems of wealth and asset holdings that don't rely on digital dollars and don't rely necessarily on cash as well. For a lot of people, that's cryptocurrency. For a lot of people, that's gold and silver. It really depends on what you're capable of obtaining, what you believe is best for you. But yeah, folks, hold cash in reserve at your home while you can, for as long as you can, until they eliminate cash. But understand, cash's days are numbered. So you need to also look at holding your wealth in other easily liquidated assets. Be that cryptocurrency, be it gold and silver, be it real estate, however you want to look at it. You got to find what works for you. But as I said the last time, these won't be the last of the bank failures. And it won't be the last of the issues with the banking sector. Wells Fargo alone, over the past 2 or 3 months, has had massive issues with bank deposits not going into accounts. And you know, that's something that's likely to happen more frequently. So just bear all this in mind, folks, and take any necessary steps. Analyze your situation, figure out what works best for you, and take some precautions so that you are still able to pay your bills, build up an emergency fund or whatever, so that if your deposit doesn't go into your bank account, you'll still be okay. That's the key takeaway from all of this. Anyway, that's all I've got. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And as always, keep prepping, stay safe, take care. And until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.